My stepson discovered me intoxicated after a long day at work, and that moment altered everything. The city buzzed with a vibrant energy in the late hours, a pulse that resonated through the walls of the penthouse, mirroring the frantic rhythm of Lila's heart as she struggled with the door handle. The night unfolded like a vivid dream, filled with laughter and cocktails that danced on her palate, leaving her senses in a delightful disarray and her coordination a bit unsteady. As she crossed the threshold, the chill of the marble floor beneath her feet sharply contrasted with the warmth that surrounded her, a warmth that felt deeper than the summer air clinging to her skin. Her crimson dress, a bold decision that now felt both audacious and perfectly fitting, clung to her like a second skin, its delicate fabric a reflection of the night's adventures. The city's humidity wrapped around her, accentuating the shapes and lines of her figure with an unyielding clarity. The garment was bold, revealing its purpose clearly, just as the woman who donned it did. The clock on the mantelpiece, a constant reminder of time's passage, illuminated the room with its bold red digits, now reading 2 a.m. The numbers seemed to mock her, a silent judgment of her tardiness that she felt too weary to contest. The night unfolded its melodic chaos, paying no heed to her confusion. It was then that Jordan emerged from the shadows, a quiet presence in the dim light of the penthouse foyer. He appeared out of nowhere, a comforting surprise, his movements confident and swift as he positioned himself to stop her before she could ascend the staircase. Lila's breath caught in her throat as she felt herself surrounded by his embrace, his arms encircling her with a closeness that felt almost too personal. Jordan's hands, firm and unwavering, rested at her waist, their warmth seeping through the delicate fabric of her dress. The connection was palpable, a surge that coursed through her, awakening a heat within her that transcended the sultry evening and the drinks she had consumed. His touch served as both a refuge and a journey, his fingers mapping the contours of her body as he gently led her away from the looming danger of the stairs. In that hazy moment, Lila felt every inch of her dress shift as Jordan guided her toward the refuge of her room. The movement unveiled a captivating stretch of thigh, the delicate lace of her undergarments subtly emerging, as if engaging in a playful dance with the moonlight filtering through the nearby window. She made a faint attempt to resist, a murmured protest that faded away as his hold on her firmed just a bit, conveying his unwavering intent to ensure she reached her bed without harm. The path to her room felt like a haze of experiences, the gentle touch of the plush carpet beneath her feet, the reassuring presence of Jordan's chest at her back, and the delicate fragrance of his cologne intertwining with the night air that enveloped them both. As they approached the bed, Lila felt her knees buckle beneath her, and she collapsed onto the edge of the mattress, her eyelids drooping under the burden of her fatigue. Jordan knelt before her, each motion purposeful and graceful. He gently grasped her foot, his fingers skillfully maneuvering the straps of her high heels with an ease that hinted at an understanding he seemed unlikely to have. The brief brush of his knuckles against her calf sent a ripple of awareness coursing through her, a sensation that lingered just beneath the surface. She observed him with a sense of bewilderment, her thoughts swirling in a fog of intrigue as he gently took off her shoes, placing them aside with a softness that felt strangely out of place in the moment. As he was about to depart, Lila extended her hand, gripping his wrist in a desperate effort to hold on to the moment. "Stay," she murmured, her voice a soft whisper that lingered in the space between them. Jordan paused, his eyes meeting hers, the turmoil inside him evident in the soft glow of the moonlight that filled the space. For a fleeting moment, Lila believed he might relent, might surrender to the electric tension that hung between them. But then he withdrew, his hand slipping from her hold as he stood up. "You should rest," he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to vibrate through her, as if he understood the weight she carried. Lila observed him walk away, her heart racing as she surrendered to the softness of the bed beneath her. The smooth silk of the sheets felt so different from the lingering warmth of Jordan's touch. As she cocooned herself in the bedding, her dress entwining around her waist, a flicker of disappointment intertwined with the fading echoes of her intoxication washed over her. In the quiet of her room, where the city's distant murmur served as her sole confidant, Lila gently closed her eyes and let herself drift into the embrace of sleep. In the depths of her mind, she wandered through shadowed corridors where tender touches lingered, and the boundaries between stepmother and stepson faded away, leaving only the essence of their connection. Deep within her subconscious, she sensed that the events of the night had triggered a series of changes that would irrevocably shift the balance between them. As Lila's awareness slowly emerged, it felt as if a tide was hesitantly pulling away from the shore, reluctant to leave the familiar behind. The morning light, gently filtered through the sheer curtains, bathed the room in a golden glow, its warmth barely touching the lingering chill that hung in the air. She stirred, her limbs weighed down and her head pulsing with the echoes of last night's excesses. The sensation of the cool sheets against her bare skin was nothing short of a revelation, a sharp contrast to the heat that had wrapped around her as she stepped back into the penthouse. As I reflect on the previous night, the memories start to come together, pieces of an evening that began with the lively glow of city lights and concluded with the quiet touch of Jordan's hands. She remembered how he had taken her clothes off, his touch a mix of gentleness and intensity, every caress of his fingers sending shivers down her spine. The memory stirred something deep within her, a blend of thankfulness for his assistance and an unsettling recognition of the lines that had been blurred. With a weary sigh, Lila carefully freed herself from the tangled sheets and quietly made her way, barefoot, to the ensuite bathroom. The shower called to her, offering the warmth of hot water and the comforting embrace of solitude, a temptation she found impossible to resist. As she stepped beneath the spray, the water cascaded over her, a soothing embrace that enveloped her and gently erased the traces of the night before. She shut her eyes, letting the steam wrap around her, a hazy embrace that provided a brief escape from the tangled web of her circumstances. The droplets followed the lines of her figure, gliding from the slope of her shoulder to the rise of her hip, each one a soft reminder of the closeness that had blossomed in the shadows of her space. Her fit form, shaped by commitment and a devotion to well-being, reacted to the water's embrace with a liveliness that masked the indulgences of the night before, as the water flowed freely, washing away the remnants that had clung to her skin. Lila turned off the tap and reached for a soft, inviting towel. She dried herself with a swift, purposeful motion, deliberately steering clear of the reflection that lingered in the mirror. She found herself unprepared to face the woman reflected in the mirror, a woman whose choices had danced dangerously near the brink of acceptability, wrapped in a silk robe that caressed her skin. Lila stepped out of the bathroom's embrace and wandered into the kitchen. The penthouse was enveloped in a stillness that sharply contrasted with the tumult of her mind. The comforting routine of making breakfast offered a much-needed escape, the simple acts of grinding coffee beans and slicing bread soothing her turbulent feelings. The delightful scent of freshly brewed coffee enveloped the space, its deep, robust essence intertwining with the soothing fragrance of golden, warm toast. Lila moved with a calm familiarity, arranging the table with intention, each careful placement of cutlery and pour of orange juice bringing her closer to the conversation she knew was coming with Jordan. As she prepared poached eggs, her attention was drawn to the intricate balance of timing and temperature, watching the whites firm up around the softly trembling yolks. Cooking became a soothing ritual, a brief refuge from the tightness that knotted within her. She arranged the food with a careful touch, the bright colors of avocado and cherry tomatoes reflecting her talent in the kitchen, with breakfast set just the way she liked it. Lila took a moment to collect her thoughts. The comforting aroma of coffee mingled with the sight of a meticulously arranged table, offering a sense of solace, a reflection of the life she had carefully crafted within these familiar surroundings. As she called out for Jordan to join her, the delicate facade of normalcy seemed on the verge of breaking, revealing the deep emotions that lay hidden just below the surface. As Jordan stepped into the kitchen, the change in the air was unmistakable as their gazes locked. An unspoken understanding passed between them, recognizing the change in their relationship. They settled into their chairs, the sound of cutlery meeting china resonating softly, a lonely note in the stillness that enveloped the room. The breakfast Lila had so lovingly prepared now sat between them, a gesture of reconciliation, a fleeting pause in the wake of their mutual misstep. The exchange was minimal, confined to the essentials of sharing salt and pepper and making remarks about the meal's quality. Lila observed Jordan closely, her gaze lingering beneath her lashes, as she sought any hint of his inner thoughts through his reactions. His expression was a mystery, his attention appearing solely devoted to the meal laid out in front of him. Lila was the one who finally shattered the stillness, her voice unwavering even as her heart raced within her. "About last night," she began, gently placing her fork down. "It's time for us to have a conversation about what transpired." Jordan raised his gaze at her words, his expression carefully shielded. "I understand," he said, his voice steady and calm, mirroring her own. "Before we dive into anything else, let's share a meal together. We must gather our strength for the conversation that lies ahead." Lila nodded, accepting the postponement with a quiet resignation as she lifted her cup. The sharp bitterness of the coffee enveloped her senses, anchoring her firmly in the present as they shared their meal. An unspoken tension lingered, a quiet acknowledgement that the events of the previous night had forever changed the dynamics between them. For the moment, they upheld the appearance of everything being fine. Yet deep down, they understood that the reality could not be ignored forever. When the time came to confront it, everything would change irrevocably. The sound of cutlery meeting fine china created an uneven rhythm that echoed through the penthouse's dining area, sharply contrasting with the oppressive silence that hung between Jordan and Lila. The sound of the chair legs scraping against the hardwood floor resonated with the unease that filled the room, an unvoiced tension that enveloped them, shrouding the familiar aspects of their shared life in a heavy mist. Lila, sitting opposite Jordan, couldn't help but notice the way his throat moved as he swallowed, a subtle sign of the anxiety he was trying so hard to hide. She understood that the moment for evasion was over. The occurrences of the night before could not be brushed aside as effortlessly as the crumbs scattered across their plates, with a determination that masked the chaos inside her. Lila placed her fork down, the noise echoing sharply in the quiet of the room. "Jordan, my friend." She started, her voice a finely tuned tool meant to express both ease and a touch of challenge. "It seems we should talk about what happened last night. Wouldn't you agree?" Jordan's eyes briefly met hers, a hint of caution crossing his face before he quickly concealed it behind a facade of calmness. "What is there to express?" He responded with an air of indifference, yet his fingers revealed the truth, gripping the handle of his coffee cup a little too tightly. Lila reclined in her chair, her gaze fixed intently on him. She confessed without hesitation, acknowledging her recklessness. "And what about you, Ah? You were truly my savior, weren't you?" Her lips formed a smile, yet it seemed to lack the warmth that should have illuminated her eyes. "Yet, I find myself pondering deeply. Was the view something you found pleasure in the question, once spoken, lingered in the air, a challenge laid bare, a silent confrontation between them. It was a delicate question, one that flirted with boundaries and risked unraveling the fragile harmony of their connection. Jordan felt a warmth rise to his cheeks, a deep crimson that stood in stark contrast to the dark stubble that adorned his jawline. "Lila," he murmured, his confidence faltering. "I assure you, my intentions were purely to assist." Lila shrugged, her movement carefully crafted to convey indifference. "Naturally," she replied, her tone tinged with a hint of doubt. "I see you, Jordan. I recognize the truth in your eyes from last night." She took a moment, letting her words settle in the air, observing as he fought to keep his calm. The atmosphere surrounding them crackled with an unspoken tension, alive with the weight of their hidden truth. Jordan began to speak, a response on the tip of his tongue, but paused, reconsidering. He sealed his lips and turned his eyes away, focusing instead on the leftover bits of his breakfast. Lila, feeling a sense of accomplishment, rose from the table, her movements graceful and intentional. "Perhaps we should pause for a moment to reflect on this together." She offered her suggestion, her voice taking on a gentler quality. "Let's take some time apart and come back to this discussion when we're both feeling more at ease." Jordan nodded, a wave of relief washing over him. "Perhaps that's for the best," he conceded, his voice soft and hesitant, as Lila withdrew into the quiet of her room. A subtle sense of satisfaction washed over her, knowing she had managed to disturb Jordan's peace. Yet, beneath her confident exterior, there was a whisper of doubt, a persistent thought about whether it was wise to unearth the hidden longings that had been exposed the previous night in the solitude of her room. Lila took a moment to reflect on the weight of her choices. She had chosen to stir the pot, deliberately seeking a reaction from Jordan. But for what purpose? Was it simply a way to regain control over a situation that had slipped through her fingers? Could there have been a more profound, perhaps even sinister reason behind it all as she reclined on her bed, gazing at the ceiling? Lila found herself face to face with a truth that was hard to bear. She was engaging in a perilous endeavor, one that could threaten to tear apart the very foundation of their family and inflict deep, enduring wounds. Yet, despite the inherent risks, she felt an undeniable pull towards the edge, captivated by the excitement of the unknown and the temptation of what lay beyond. In the quiet refuge of her room, Lila shut her eyes and allowed herself to be enveloped by the storm of her feelings, a swirling mix of longing, remorse, and an emerging thrill for the possibilities that lay ahead. The day lay ahead, a blank page filled with the potential to challenge everything she thought she knew about her bond with Jordan, pushing her into uncharted territory. The afternoon slipped away into the early evening, with shadows stretching longer and longer across the penthouse floor. Lila discovered a comforting refuge in the act of preparing dinner, where the steady rhythm of chopping vegetables and the sizzling of meat in the pan offered a fleeting reprieve from her tumultuous mind. The kitchen, adorned with shining appliances and filled with enticing aromas, was her sanctuary, a space where she could impose order and discipline, even as her personal life appeared to be fraying at the edges. Jordan, settled at the kitchen island, observed her with a silent intensity that felt both unsettling and strangely comforting. His presence was a steady anchor in her life, something she had grown to depend on. Even as the lines of their relationship started to fade, his silence, though not uncommon, felt more intense after their earlier conversation, a noticeable barrier that Lila both admired and longed to break down. "You've been quiet," she observed, her voice cutting through the kitchen stillness with a sharp clarity. The words lingered in the air, a silent recognition of the unspoken truth that both were avoiding, yet both felt deeply. Jordan's eyes rose to hers, a brief shadow of an unspoken thought crossing his face. "Just thinking," he replied, his tone lacking certainty, yet the tension in his eyes revealed an unease he struggled to hide. Lila placed the knife aside, her hands now liberated to express her thoughts as she spoke. "We can't simply act as if last night was nothing more than a dream." "Jordan," she said, her voice steady yet heavy with unspoken feelings. "A moment has passed, one that cannot be reversed. It's important for us to have this conversation, to truly grasp what it signifies for our future together." The atmosphere was thick with unexpressed feelings, the weight of her words lingering palpably around them. Lila met Jordan's eyes, her demeanor steady despite the flutter of excitement and fear within her heart. She turned away, gliding towards one of the kitchen drawers, her fingers skillfully finding what she sought: a bottle of gin, its amber liquid standing as a symbol of bravery amidst the fading glow of the kitchen. With a purposeful motion, she retrieved 2 crystal tumblers from the overhead cabinet, placing them on the counter with a sharp, resonant clink. "Maybe a drink will help us open up," she proposed, her tone tinged with a touch of irony as she filled each glass to the brim. The gentle pour of the gin filled the quiet kitchen, reminiscent of a waterfall, a flow that held the power to either soften the sharpness of their words or plunge them into unknown depths. Jordan observed her, his face revealing nothing as she neared him, offering one of the tumblers towards him. Their fingers grazed during the handoff, a brief touch that ignited a spark of awareness within Lila. She turned away from the feeling, seeking refuge on the far side of the kitchen island, lifting her glass in a quiet gesture of acknowledgement. The initial taste of gin hit me like a bolt, its sharpness a vivid reminder of the drink's strength and the weighty dialogue that awaited us. Lila observed Jordan as he lifted his glass to his lips, the muscles in his throat flexing with each swallow, his gaze locked onto hers with an intensity that felt almost confessional. He finally admitted it, his voice a deep murmur that filled the quiet space of the kitchen. "We can't ignore the reality of our situation, but I'm not sure if turning to alcohol is the solution." Lila let out a soft sigh, her fingers gently gliding over the shape of the tumbler she held. "It's not about finding an answer." "Jordan," she said, her voice taking on a gentler quality, "it's about allowing ourselves the freedom to be truthful, both with one another and with our own hearts. Perhaps the gin will guide us on our journey." As they continued to sip their drinks in a silence that felt more like a shared moment than an awkward pause. Lila found herself enveloped in a warm sense of accomplishment. She had brought it up, compelling them to face the change in their relationship. The road ahead was unclear, filled with possible dangers and emotional traps, yet they were at least taking steps forward together. The remainder of the evening revealed a careful closeness that masked the unease of their previous exchanges. They engaged in light chatter, their words weaving carefully around the deeper concern that had led them here. The dinner Lila prepared was eaten with a sense of normalcy that felt almost surreal, considering everything that had happened. As the evening shadows lengthened in the penthouse, a quiet change began to unfold within its confines. The gin that Lila had poured with such care now flowed through their veins, a warm wave that eased their words and melted away walls with a comfort that was both freeing and unsettling. The mood in the room transformed, thick with a palpable tension of longing that felt as exhilarating as the beverages they enjoyed. Jordan's eyes, once so deliberately turned away, began to wander more often over the shape of Lila's figure. His eyes, a shade darker than usual, followed the contours of her figure with an intensity that felt almost palpable. A quiet recognition of the attraction that lingered just beneath the surface of their exchanges. Lila, keenly conscious of the impact she was creating, embraced the strength of her femininity. The gin stirred something within her, a daring spirit that felt both thrilling and foreign. It urged her to explore the edges of their relationship, testing its very limits. As she leaned in to set her drink down, the fabric of her dress shifted, unveiling a captivating glimpse of her cleavage that effortlessly captured Jordan's attention. "Is there something on your mind, Jordan?" she teased, her voice a sultry whisper that wrapped around him, pulling him deeper into her web. She observed, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment, as a blush spread across his neck, revealing the battle he waged within for control. As she reclined in her chair, the material of her dress clung to her chest, an intentional tease that revealed more than it concealed. Lila was acutely aware of the danger she was in, yet there was a part of her that couldn't, or maybe didn't want to, put out the flames that loomed over them both. The game of cat and mouse unfolded as Lila stood up, her movements slow and intentional. She moved to the other side of the room, seemingly to pick up a fallen napkin, yet the real intention behind her actions was evident in the gentle sway of her hips and the intentional parting of her legs as she bent down, granting Jordan a clear view of the lace that embraced her curves. The atmosphere in the room became thick with tension, a heavy energy that vibrated in the air between them. The djinn had worked its magic, peeling back the layers of restraint to expose the pure, unfiltered essence of their longing for each other. In that moment, as Lila straightened and turned to face Jordan, her eyes locked onto his, she knew there was no turning back. With a courage that masked the chaos inside her, Lila approached him, each step a quiet affirmation of her purpose. Jordan felt a tightness in his throat as he observed her coming closer, his body bracing itself for the tempest that was imminent. When their lips finally met, it was a clash of desires, a fusion of breaths that felt as much like a test as it did a yielding. The kiss held a powerful blend of sweetness and urgency, a peak of emotions that had been simmering since the night before. It was a kiss that revealed hidden yearnings and taboo wishes, a testament to the undeniable connection that lingered between them, even as reason urged them to tread carefully and hold back. Lila's fingers wove through Jordan's hair, drawing him nearer, intensifying the kiss as if silently pleading for more. Jordan's hands, steady and unwavering throughout the night, now settled on her waist, holding her with a certainty that made his feelings unmistakably clear. In that moment, the outside world vanished, its pressures and judgments becoming mere whispers, overshadowed by the intense connection that enveloped Lila and Jordan. Their kiss became a connection that crossed the deep divide of their mutual struggle, a bold journey together. The kiss, initially a cautious venture, swiftly transformed into an urgent declaration of longing. It felt like a floodgate had opened between them, unleashing a wave of feelings that had been simmering since the night before. The flavor of gin lingered on their tongues, a powerful elixir that ignited the passion with which they yearned to possess each other. Their movements, previously held back, now surged with a sense of urgency, a frantic quality that teetered on the brink of desperation. Lila's hands explored the strong contours of Jordan's back, her nails grazing his skin beneath the fabric of his shirt, silently yearning for more touch, more intimacy, more of the exhilarating rush that ignited her senses. In response, Jordan's touch became more daring, his hands gliding over the contours of her body with a respect that masked his escalating desire. The delicate straps of her dress surrendered effortlessly to his skilled hands, cascading down her shoulders to unveil the intricate lace that adorned her curves. The fabric lay at her feet, a soft reminder of the fervor that had taken hold of their every move. Clothing, which had once stood as a barrier between them, transformed into something unnecessary, an encumbrance that was discarded with a fervor that allowed no space for modesty or doubt. Every item left behind signified a step deeper into the abyss, a path of remnants guiding one to the very core of Lila's sanctuary. There, on the soft expanse of her bed, They united with a desire that teetered on the edge of madness, the limits of their connection, once perceived as unchangeable and impossible to breach, now faded away in the face of their mutual longing. The titles of stepmother and stepson lost their significance in the face of their profound need for each other, a need that went beyond societal expectations and family connections. Lila surrendered to the warmth of Jordan's touch, her body responding instinctively, every nerve ending ignited by the caress of his hands. She found joy in the heaviness of him, the firmness of his body grounding her against the mattress, a concrete assurance that this was far from just a dream. It was a truth they faced, though one laden with repercussions they had not yet fully contemplated. Jordan, for his part, appeared just as entranced by the woman who rested before him. His eyes, deep and filled with longing, swept over her, reflecting a sense of wonder, as if he struggled to grasp the reality of her presence, that she was truly there with him, surrendering herself with a fervor that mirrored his own. Their bond was something alive, a vibrant amalgamation of flesh and spirit that transcended words. Every kiss, every gentle touch, unfolded like a secret, revealing the hidden depths of their bond. The atmosphere was heavy with the essence of their desire, a rich fragrance that intertwined with the subtle notes of gin and the echoes of their chosen scents. As they moved together, their bodies finding a rhythm that felt timeless. Lila sensed the weight of the moment pressing upon her. This was not just a fleeting encounter, nor a simple surrender to desire. This moment marked a significant change, a definitive step beyond which there was no return. In the quiet haven of Lila's bedroom, everything beyond those four walls faded away, the troubles and complexities of the outside world losing all significance in the face of their profound bond. It was just Jordan, their bodies entwined in a timeless dance, one that honored the exquisite beauty and strength of human longing in its most genuine and unfiltered essence. The intensity of their union had soared to an exhilarating high, every instant a peak of desire that begged to be remembered. Lila, in a moment that truly reflected her essence, gently pulled away from Jordan's hold, her skin warm from the intimacy they had just shared. With a sultry smile that hinted at the allure of their intimate dance, she reached for the bedside table, her fingers wrapping around the sleek form of her camera. Jordan observed her with a gaze that lingered, his breath quick and uneven as he absorbed the image of her, bare, unreserved, and completely enchanting. "What's on your mind right now?" he inquired, his voice a husky whisper that revealed the remnants of his yearning. Lila's eyes sparkled with a playful secret as she locked eyes with him. "I want to capture this," she said, her voice steady, though a flush of color warmed her cheeks, revealing the delicate balance between her daring intentions and the hidden fragility within. "I wish to hold on to the memory of us in this way, wild, free, and completely enveloped in one another, with a steady hand." She set the camera on its tripod, carefully adjusting the angle to frame their intertwined bodies, while also embracing the genuine, unguarded feelings that filled the space around them. The camera found its focus, the lens drawing closer, capturing every detail with precision.